Hey everybody, this is Weem from Epic Inventor, and you're about to watch part 2 of the Q&A with me about the game. The purpose of a town is going to be to house your placeables, essentially. Um, the town itself isn't as much an entity as it is a term we use to define this area. You've got this gray flat areas indicating this is a place that you can begin putting your placeables once you have a cabin down. In the game, the first right away your spawn point, which is where we are, you will start with a cabin, which essentially establishes this town area as yours, and you can begin to put placeables on it. So you'll go out into the world and find more areas like this. You'll clear them out, you'll place your cabin, and then you will be able to put down placeables, power sources, things of that nature. So the purpose of a town, as the purpose of a town is to hold placeables, I guess the question probably should be, what is the purpose of placeables? And placeables have a number of different purposes. Some of them are going to help you refine materials. Some of them are going to help you generate materials. For example, a quarry can generate stone for you over time. Um, you will also use placeables to help you advance into the further tech levels. So certain advancements will require you to have certain placeables down in your world. So there's this real integration with placeables and things like your skills and advancements. So the purpose of placeables then becomes it's your way to advance in the game. It's your way to get beyond using the simple weapons like hammers and swords and things like that and moving into the further tech levels. So that's the purpose of a town essentially. And as far as being able to or having a desire to or a need to defend your town and expand them, you will need to defend them. As you can see, these creatures are coming up here if they wouldn't keep getting stuck. They will come after you. They will come after your town if you're not there. They will attack the cabin, they'll attack your placeables, and they can take them out. So you are going to want to defend your town. Now, fortunately, you personally don't need to be there all the time. You'll put down defensive placeables to help kill these creatures off as they come within range. So you don't always have to be around. But in that regard, you do want to defend them, and you are going to want to expand so that you can get more placeables down. You simply won't have enough room to get down all the placeables you want with just one town, or even two later on, or three. So it really has a real estate aspect to this game does. So you're going to be managing that and moving things around. So in fact, I'll put a placeable down here. Put the steam engine. We have right now just a default timer of 15 seconds. Those may vary. I'll get into that a little bit later. But you will be able to, and now that this is down, I look at my inventory and there's no steam engine, but I can walk up to this thing and gather it, essentially pick it up, and it will appear in 5, 4, 3, 2 over my inventory. So I've picked that up and I can bring it back out to my quick bar. So you'll be able to move these things around. So as far as expanding into other towns, that's going to be one of the games is essentially uprooting placeables, moving them around for efficiency. It might be that you want certain placeables clumped together because they happen to be placeables that you interact with, and you happen to interact with these ones a lot, and you don't want to run back and forth between towns. So there's going to be a lot of strategy as far as what placeables go where and why. Um, so yeah, you will essentially you do want to expand for that reason. Will a town be boring? Uh, it depends. There will be placeables you put down that you'll get to interact with, but there will also be placeables that you won't interact with. That they're going to sit and do their thing regardless of whether you're there or not. So there could actually be towns where you have all placeables down that don't require you to interact with them at all. In which case, would that be boring? Maybe if you stood around watching it long enough, I'm sure it would get boring after a while. You're gonna want to go out and you're gonna want to kill things and gather materials. That's basically what the game is about. You shouldn't be sitting in a town too long. You're gonna have plenty of stuff to do. And you could see it gave me an error. I accidentally clicked to put a placeable down out here. Silly me. And we've got the stuck porcupine again. What are we gonna do with that guy? Defensive placeables that use ammunition that fire, for example, arrows, or I mentioned earlier uh, an auto crossbow turret. I've mentioned on the forums a few times um, that you would imagine would require arrows or crossbow bolts, but I'm lazy as a player, and I don't want to have to keep equipping these things with ammo, and I don't think anybody should. Um, I don't think that should be something that you have to focus on. You're going to have other things that you're going to be focusing on and managing. So, what we will likely do is include in the required materials to build a defensive placeable a large amount of ammo, and it will just be kind of a one-time deal. So an auto crossbow turret may have a wood requirement, it may have some kind of metal requirement, and then it might require a stack of arrows or something, for example. And that would be it. It would manage on its own from then on out without having to be refilled. So that's kind of how we're expecting ammo to work for defensive placeables. As far as how they work generally speaking, I think it's pretty straightforward. When you put down a ranged defensive placeable, we'll just pretend this is a crossbow turret, uh, auto crossbow turret. So you're going to put a defensive placeable down, and it's going to have a certain range. If it's a ranged weapon like a crossbow turret, it will have a range that whenever any kind of creature enters within its range, it will begin firing at it at its normal rate of fire. So that's for a ranged defensive placeable. Some placeables you put down are going to be more like traps that mobs will walk through and damage will be inflicted upon them. Some will slow a monster coming through the area or impede them in some way. And some of them will be combinations of those. So there's going to be a lot of different kinds of defensive placeables, not all of which will have or not all of which you would imagine would have ammo, but when it comes down to it, any of the defensive placeables you would imagine would have ammo probably won't. It's probably not something we're going to get into. It just doesn't seem that fun to me. I don't want to manage that. So I don't think you do either. But I can definitely see the interest in that, and um, if the roles were reversed and I were playing such a game and it did require ammo, I would understand it and it wouldn't be that big of a deal to me. As far as like the immersion goes, yes, it runs out of ammo. I need to monitor it. That's cool. To me, it makes sense and everything. But from this side of the table, working on the game like this, I just don't think it's something that we need to be focusing on or worrying about. So we probably won't. um, but anyway, back to that last part. The defensive placeables are pretty straightforward. They're going to attack mobs that come within their range, using whatever means they use. So let's see. We have the last part of that question is: will some slow building placeables ever take more than an hour to get completed? Um, Let's see. The quick answer to that is no. I don't see placeables taking longer than an hour. There was discussion of that early on. I remember explaining to Forrest at one time, I think I was using the game Trade Nations. I was messing around with that on the iPad and was telling him, these games, these social games, quite often use hours. They have buildings that take hours, 24 hours plus. And I mean, it's real time, so you could put it down and then turn your iPad off, exit out of the game, and 24 hours later it would be done. Um, so I wasn't really opposed to having really long times, like hours. But once you start looking at, for example, multiplayer, where you've got two people playing a game, and let's say you've only got a couple hours at a time to play, um, all of a sudden those seem kind of long when you kind of want to jump in and get something done. So more than an hour is not likely. More than a half hour, probably not. But there may be some that get close. But we're talking. Not very many. When you look at the overall number of placeables, most of them won't take very long. In fact, to give you an example, we're just using a 15-second timer for the steam engine. I should say we're using a 15-second timer for all placeables right now as a test, but you can expect the timers to be relatively short. I'm getting texted like crazy right now. Sorry about that. Uh, so yes, they shouldn't be that long. Some of them may be a minute, some may be 3, 5 minutes or so. An hour, not likely. So that's it. And in fact, looking at the list here, that's the last question I have as far as what I was going to answer in the game today. There's a couple more questions from the forums. I'm going to actually go ahead and answer those in the forums, or I may talk about them while I do my next Let's Play video or two in Minecraft. I'm not really sure, but we'll see. So I hope that's answered all your questions so far, at least as far as the ones that are on the forums. If you have any more, feel free to post some there again. You can keep going with more questions, and I'd happily do another video answering as many questions as I can. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Check out the forums. Come visit us if you haven't yet. Join the community. Chat us up. We're just hanging out. We love to talk about the game. We share as much as we can. Forrest and Brandon and myself, we try and put information out there. But there's some things we like to keep secret. But for the most part, we're pretty open. So come join us. Come hang out. That's it. We'll talk to you guys later.